Thank you for joining me, brother. This is the Road Less Traveled. This is the second episode of the Road Less Traveled. And with this show, the goal is to highlight individuals who I know have some sort of relationship with and engage with them on their path within Rhode Island. Some guests have a single touch point. Some guests started here and went on and did things. Some folks found their way back here. I love the chance to interview you, one, just because our relationship and our friendship, which is going on about 9 years now, something like that.
It's been a minute, yeah.
And you've done the Rhode Island thing. Mm-hmm. You've done it. You've stayed here. You've committed here. You've contributed here. And I would just love to be able to talk through parts of that journey, maybe that aren't as out there, aren't as known, things that I don't know about you. I'd love to. So I think it's probably best that we, start at our start, which also has a bit of a funny kind of piece there where we met at a campaign event where, and you could tell more about where you were in this moment, but for some reason, the rumor that I had gotten was that you were related to the son, in fact, of the candidate you were campaigning with, and I quickly realized that wasn't, maybe not quickly. Yeah. I saw it, I was like, I can see it. I was like, damn, father-son campaign duo, this kills. Yeah. But that obviously wasn't the case. So where were you in the moment where you were jumping into campaign work and political organizing?
Yeah, so the person you're mentioning, right, is Jorge Elorza, who was then candidate at the time. It's actually a story that I tell a lot of young people.
Yeah.
So I went to Rhode Island College, graduated with a political science, public administrations degree, and one of the first things I did was I probably had $100 to my name. I probably spent $50 on 500 business cards. I said my name, 2013 Rhode Island College, graduate, political science, public administration. And I would pass those cards everywhere, even in the club.
In the club?
They're like, hey, girl,
Vistaprint?
Vistaprint. Yeah. Vistaprint. So I gotta see if I still have one of those cards. I'm gonna I don't know. I'm gonna put
that archive.
Yeah, archive it. That was what I was looking for. And I met Elorza at a dinner at Los Andes. There was someone we knew through Rick. He won a dinner at Roger Williams Law, and he was a law professor. So I knew him from there. I asked a bunch of questions. Well-traveled. It was a sense that he was running for mayor. And this is before I graduate. I graduate. One of the first events I go to is this Latino networking event that Tomas Avila was organizing at the time. As you know, obviously a lot of people don't know, but I don't speak Spanish, right? Wasn't raised that way, didn't grow up that way. Puerto Rican, that type of aspect. My family's from New York. I go to this event, I sit front row, I'm looking at the network, I got my business cards ready.
Oh, of course.
And Elorza does the whole speech in Spanish. Right?
Oh, wow.
The whole speech is in Spanish.
Yeah.
And so I don't know necessarily what was said. I'm sitting through that front row. I already met this person. I did a lot of research in person. This was someone that I wanted to connect with, network with. Again, right, just come out of college. As soon as the speech was over, I raised my hand and I say, for Q&A, I raised my hand and say, how can someone like me help someone like you?
In English? Did you at least try to?
In English. No, in English.
Yeah.
And I gave him my business card.
Yeah.
He calls me the next day, and I spend probably 7 months with him, going to events all over the city, all over the state, and met people like yourself. People that help create Millennial Rhode Island. But that was the funny joke. That was a reoccurring joke because we were together. I was with him at all the events. He didn't really have that many volunteers at that point.
I remember.
He didn't even open up a campaign account. So he's just out there, and that was the joke. People thought that I was his son. There's actually a picture somewhere on Facebook. So the first event that I went to with him, it was the summer it was Sunset Cookout. Oh, this is so bad that I'm forgetting.
Was it Thomas Avila who hosts?
Yeah, so Tomas was hosting these cookouts, and I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm dressed up in a tie. I'm ready to go.
You had like a blue suit. That was the event.
I don't remember. I don't remember I had a suit, but there's definitely a picture somewhere. But I had this huge notebook. In terms of maybe taking notes and things like that. Yeah. And I think Angel Tavares, who was mayor at the time, comes to me, you can use your phone. You can use.
Yo, just imagine Angel Tavares, who doesn't strike me as like the tech guy, advising a millennial. Yo, your phone might be.
Take some notes that way. Like, I don't know. I'm trying to look professional, and
Man, that is.
And you were with Victor Capellan?
I was with Victor Capellan, yes. Latino organizer. I mean, I've always been part-time Dominican. So I was also at events where people were speaking Spanish, and I was like, how can I support? Yeah. I think that's such a quintessential Travis Escobar story. So so you are currently co-founder of Island Coquito. You are co-founder part owner of Island Coquito. You are a founder and board chair for Millennial, Rhode Island, and you do so many things in Rhode Island in a lot of ways. And this story is so quintessentially you, because I think that speaks to where I met you at, not just what you were doing, but what your mentality was at that time, right? I think seeing you in that kind of space and just saying, yo, how can I help? Right? I think that as I've watched you grow through time, you've always been very intentional about that reciprocity thing, right? I'm gonna pull up for you, and I'm gonna push the issues that we're aligned on, even if I don't get the credit or whatever. I'll be behind the scenes, and then always, finding ways to like re-engage those networks and those people that you've built things with. And I think Millennial Rhode Island is one of the best examples of a vehicle you've used to, further your mission in that way. And that's, again, how we got a little deeper. So, tell us a little bit about Millennial, what Millennial Rhode Island is, and really what your vision for Millennial Rhode Island was when you founded it.
So I graduated 2013. At Rhode Island College, I was student body president. We had concerts. I was well known, networked. I went to the State of Union address in 2012 as a student with Sheldon Whitehouse, one of my big inspirations.
And that was Barack Obama.
State of the Union. And it was around that time where, having the business cards, I'm going out and I want to network and I want to make an impact, and also I want to find other like-minded individuals. So through the Alorza campaign, meeting so many people, I started to see that there weren't a lot of spaces for young professionals, particularly diversity for young professionals. And it was during the same time where there was, and you see this with Gen Z now, but there was a ton of articles about millennials, or are they lazy, narcissistic. There's that infamous cover magazine from, I think it was Newsweek or Times, I'm forgetting, but there were so many articles painting a bad narrative about millennials. Tied with, there was articles talking about young people, young professionals in particular, leaving the state of Rhode Island. So one of the folks that I met during the Alorza campaign was Dione Garcia, Stephanie Gonzalez, Erlen Rogel, and there was talks of maybe creating a Latino young professional group. And I'd sort of pitched, let's create something for everyone. Latino found it, but let's create something that is more, speaks to our generation. Grateful for them to, support that idea. Because if they said, nah, we're not doing that, I don't think Millennial Rhode Island happens. And we had a lot of meetings with alcohol where we're talking about, we want to do something, not only bring young professionals together, but how do we create an impact for the state of Rhode Island. I had created this PowerPoint that was so many slides about a whole bunch of different ideas. and I was shopping it to a lot of people. I don't know what I'm doing, right? I come from poverty on the South Side. I don't know how to create a business, an organization, a nonprofit. And I'm shopping this idea to folks, and one of the people I ended up meeting with was Mike Ritz, who was leading Leadership Rhode Island at the time. And he tells me, you know what, you should write an op-ed. And I was like, oh, how do you write an op-ed?
Down, couldn't do it, but what?
So I draft an op-ed. I had, who knows how many folks looked at it, edited it, revised it, and I dropped it on the Providence Journal. I left my email address there. And it was so well received because I was speaking to a generation that maybe felt left behind in the state of Rhode Island. Folks that, they're graduating, and how do I get connected? How do I build community? Where do I go for our generation? And that allowed the recruitment strategy of bringing folks on to a certain level. I remember one of our first meetings was in the library on the East Side. I'm forgetting the name of the library on the East Side, but we were just having meetings in public spaces and trying to build and see where we can go to. And elected officials at that time, especially when we launched, and with Mayor Lorza and Governor Raimondo at the time, you saw what we were doing with Millennial Rhode Island, not only networking, bring our generation together, but talking about how do you plug us in? How do you connect us into decision-making that allowed for Mayor Lorza to create a Millennial task force, probably helped a whole lot of young people get appointed to boards and commissions. Governor Raimondo did a housing program, first-time home buyers program. I spoke at a press conference. I was actually unemployed during that time. I spoke at the press conference.
You find your greatest confidence when you've got nothing going on. I need this to matter.
And one of the big ones that's still going on that we advocated for was the Wavemaker program. That's a tax credit program for student loan debt. And I think that's something that's going to keep on expanding, help young professionals right now in the STEM field, I think even educators as well, be able to pay down their debt in Rhode Island. So it was that time period, I think, was impactful for a lot of people. And I think it allowed elected officials to think about, well, how are we engaging young professionals?
Yeah, I mean, and is the library, was it the Athenaeum?
It was it's on the East Side. It's one of those things where you kind of wish that you could just pull out the phone and be like, oh, what's the name?
Okay.
Because someone criticizes you, how you not remember that name of the...
Yes.
We're taping,
Yes. Well, I think that journey from Rick and the inaugural address to, where you're talking to governors about policies that matter. This show, we're gonna, you're here humbly and stay humble. But I'm gonna go ahead and just highlight what I've observed from the outside perspective as someone not from Rhode Island, and what and I'm curious as to your reflections on that. Is that just being at Rick, right? I was a college advisor. I know the idea that you're at Rick, you're not, it's not. You're at a state school, in Rhode Island, right? Where, the education system gets, knocked for not having this or that, especially compared to Massachusetts and Boston. And you're there as a student, you're a leader from the South Side, you're, at a place where you're, on stage or, representing Rhode Island at, the, President Obama's, inaugural address. And there is this, who is this guy? We don't see this in Rhode Island, right? And so when you're able to, start to just represent something that is just, hey, this is an underdog, state, and underdogs, who are coming through the public school system and coming through the state school system, right? You start to represent something. And so I think that watching you and knowing how those conversations happen, right? Part of it was everything you brought to the table, the hunger that I, could see off of you, but also what you represented and what you continue to represent. And so just on that, I think that's what pulled me into Millennial Rhode Island when, you were gathering your knights of the round table. And it was like the king's cabinet of Game of Thrones, right? I was like, oh, shit, I get to be here. And I'm not even from here. No. You know what I mean? I think a lot of people follow because you represented something.
Yeah.
That people doubted, right? To me, as someone who was like, yo, Rhode Island's an amazing place with amazing people. Yeah. People like, yo, who? Where are the celebrities? Blah, blah. And I was just like, Travis Escobar. He's someone who is representing like leadership in a real way, doing meaningful things. And so, yeah, how has like that, I don't want to call it a weight because I don't know how you've navigated it, right? But that is almost, it's an expectation.
Like, yeah, and I'd say at the very beginning, it was just helpful to have a group of like-minded people, still have that today, that want to support Rhode Island, want to support the generation. And I think individually, I was getting used to the aspect of representing something. I was representing Rhode Island College, representing the students there. But it was interesting when there would be some negative comments. Like when the Providence Journal article dropped, jokes about millennials. Yeah. Years later, when I was invited by Bill Rappley, may he rest in peace, on NBC 10 to talk about the election, folks were putting, saying I have a face that they would punch, so there were aspects where representing the generation and then being out in the news, being out in the community, there were some negatives of people just throwing hate my way, but I don't think that necessarily impacted my mental health as much. And we had people come and go and leave, and I was also just growing as a leader.
Right.
Just developing my skills with all of these young professionals and being naive and just trying to figure out how do I represent this mission well for young professionals, represent my state well, and even to this day, it's always a constant. How do I get better? How do I do that? I am at a place where I get to interact with a lot of young people, high schoolers, and I'm able to do talks. And one of the things I express, especially for this younger generation, is facing your fears and being as courageous as you possibly can be. And a lot of those deeper questions of representing young professionals, representing the state, didn't necessarily impact me or wasn't really deep in my reflection point because I was so involved and immersed in the work. And facing my fears and how do I build a brand? How do I build a legitimate nonprofit? How do I get people into good jobs or, running for office and being able to change the system and make our community better for Rhode Island as a whole. So it didn't, the weight on my shoulders didn't feel as big because there were so many people that was there with me. And even if people had left for one reason or the other, there was always more people
willing to kind of jump in and join the fight.
Yeah, and that goes on to this day, right? The team today is completely different than the team when we first started, me being the consistent, right, aspect of that.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that tracks for what it was like watching you develop into a leader while I was on the board. And watching you have a vision and have goals and a mission clearly understood, but also figuring out how to do this with this group of 12, and figure out how to do that for a Rhode Island that is semi-open or semi-down to support, but you had some champions and you had folks that, so you had to navigate unexpected parts in that journey. And I think, to your point, you relied on this group. You let me be executive director. Yeah. And I'm even from Rhode Island. But you saw,
which was great at the time. It was definitely it was wonderful to have that collaborative partnership and being able to just, because Millennial Rhode Island was about all of us developing one way or the other.
Yeah.
And to see you at that time, take the helm, really represent the brand well, help us create programs and partnerships, bring that back in, that that was cool.
Yeah, well, well, it's good to have people speaking to my collaborative interests in the state of Rhode Island, because there are other thoughts and ideas about how I approach things. So, thank you. No, but I think that like actually though, right, like that opportunity put me into a space and to networks that are why I'm where I am today in a lot of ways. And so I have a lot of gratitude for the chance that you took, but you also took that chance on, anyone who was showing up and wanted to contribute and wanted to be a part of the team. I want to get to what you built with Millennial RI, but I want to also get back to, so how does a kid growing up on the south side of Providence, in your experience, Puerto Rican, where did that, if there was a moment where a spark, was lit, where you wanted more than what, maybe putting food on the table for you and your fam, like where did the vision grow?
Yeah. So my mother, single mother, she's a domestic violence, gun violence survivor. We grew up in the south side of Providence, affordable housing. And after she survived what she went through, she was always working.
Yeah.
She joined AmeriCorps, and she was always working with young kids, but she decided to turn her story and be an advocate. So when I was in high school, she was at the State House testifying for legislation or part of campaigns, sharing her story with the Rhode Island Coalition Against Domestic Violence and SOAR, Sisters Overcoming Abusive Relationships. And at that time, I didn't understand that. I didn't understand why you would be sharing, our story.
Right, our family
secrets.
Essentially, yeah.
And seeing her, so openly part of campaigns and has done a play, and she's done so much. And public speaking is not the most favorite thing that she would be willing to do. My mother always provided for me. I always saw her work, and I always saw her make things happen. And when 2008 hit and the Obama campaign happened, and seeing the rise of a man of color just beat all expectations, I got hooked in terms of just politics at that point, but led into more of my journey of why, which is I want to make an impact in my community. And when 2008 happened, this is also part of my. So junior year was the rock bottom, at least during that point in my life. I'd failed English and Spanish, and I was in summer school. And I remember thinking, damn, I failed both languages. Both. I'm already getting roasted all the time for not being Latino, not knowing Spanish. But I also failed English too. And I had to go to summer school, take the bus, go to summer school, come out where, at that point I loved to be playing video games or doing anything else other than going to summer school. And all of that was mixed too. Because I was like, I don't want to do this. Like, what's next for me? So all of those energies put me to go to Rhode Island College and really just be courageous. Like, what's the opportunity? I knew I wanted to be student government president. So I found out the process and I became student government president. It took me 2 years to be able to do that. Freshman year I got on, I became vice president, and became president for 2 years. And at Rhode Island College, it was a great experience. The student government at Rhode Island College is very unique. We have at that time they had $1 million budget that the students had control over. It's not like that in a lot of other colleges and universities. So I was able to develop programs. I was able to figure out as a leader. I had my ego stage too, my heavy ego stage, I think carried on to a little bit past in the early stages of Millennial, Rhode Island. And I'm learning, I'm growing, but I'm making a conscious decision that I want to make an impact for people, and I want to do things that scare me. And and also serve my mother in that way. I'm the first one in our family to graduate high school, graduate college, take those steps. And I just want to show that to my mom. And one of the top moments in my life to this day is I was able to get the graduation speech at Rhode Island College in 2013, and I'm the first kid to graduate college, but not only graduate college, give the speech.
Yeah,
and
major. That's major.
That's so it's really just my mom, and she's always had a positive energy.
Yeah,
I really am my mother's child. Even something negative happened, she'd always keep it moving. When she had went through that incident, she came out on the other side smiling, joking, laughing. She has that in her, and that to me is really nothing so bad. As long as I'm living, as long as I have a breath, I'm on this earth. Nothing is so bad to really take me off of my journey.
Man, well, one, let's salute to your mom, to Mama Escobar.
Mama Cruz.
Yeah. Mama Cruz. And I don't know how I haven't met her yet. Yeah. But that's on a bucket list of mine. But I think that just makes so much sense. I think that one, there's an inherently nurturing and not, because obviously your mom took care of you, and that is also part of, and she wants to make sure others are taken care of, right? And that I think is inherent in the work that you do, in the goals of Millennial RI, in your approach, right? It's not self-serving. And that clearly comes from somewhere, and it's quite clear. You want to do things that scare you. I have been wondering,
this was scary.
I bet. And I think you've taken such bold, kind of steps, and I want to talk about Island Coquito. I'm gonna do a quick, kind of. So you've done all the things that you've done, and you have the goals that you have. Why not go for mayor? Why not go for taking care of the city?
Yeah, I think. In 2016, I was able to work at United Way of Rhode Island, mm-hmm. and I had gotten a position to do policy and do state legislative work, mm-hmm. and be a nonprofit lobbyist. And I was able to help build Homes RI with a lot of people, yeah. and build a coalition around affordable housing that's got a bunch of wins, and help advocate on after school and summer learning stuff. And obviously the advocacy work that we did for Millennial, Rhode Island, whether that's, free college or the Wave Maker, home, first time home buyer grant. So we're able to advocate for a lot of good systems change, and just even being on the school board today and having a voice on education, even during the takeover system. I think there's a lot of impact that could be done other than just having to run for office and get a position. But I would say in 2008, I had such a beeline. I was like, by this year I'm running for this, by this year I'm running for that, and I'm gonna keep. I don't think like that anymore. Okay. I do, and when we have met people that do think like that, that's the end goal. I need to do all of these things so I could get this title. Right. I don't really believe in the title. Mm-hmm. I believe in the impact that you can do for people. Right. I work for a large financial institution where I'm able to invest in financial literacy programs for Providence students. Yeah. I'm able to take Providence students, this big company, show them around, say hey, you can be here. Yeah. I appreciate that impact. Yeah. I appreciate the impact of still bringing young professionals together from Millennial, Rhode Island, the scholarship program that we have for the Lieutenant Governor's Office, which a good chunk of Providence students have won, the things that we're going to be doing with the school board in this coming year. And it's one of those things where, do I need to run for something? And also, I'm rooting for the current administration, or really any mayor that comes in. So, you want to see the best for the city. You want to make sure that the mayor is taking care of the best for it. But it's a lot of work to run for office. I think the work can also be limiting in this type of atmosphere that we have in politics. And I would say that there's a lot of young people that I know are interested in potentially like these positions in the future. Who knows what have you? Right. But right now, just sort of rooting for our current mayor, rooting for our city at all times, again, no matter who it is, and hoping for great outcomes. Whether I think their brand is trying to be the best run city, so I'm hoping to see best run city. Right. I'm hoping to see a better PVD Fest. Hoping to see.
Yes, would love that.
And I would say that housing, hoping to see something around rent. Right. You know, something around just affordable housing for our city, because that's becoming big. So if that happens, I think that would be a point in my life where there's a lot of conversations, a lot of discussions. Island Coquito, I think, is at a better place because we're still in a startup. I know I'm giving the very political, wishy-washy answer.
It's not. So it's real. And I hear it, but I also hear when you say that your way of thinking about like, you know, what you want to do and how you want to go about it.
And I want to travel.
And and what priorities you have, right? Mm-hmm. I think about this to myself a lot, which is, what is the point where you're young and you have all this energy and you want to, you know what I mean, change the world, you want to scare yourself, right? What is the point where that switches? You know what I mean? Like whether you have a family or you just figure, okay, let me let the young bloods go out there and do this, right? And is it brought on by like choice? Is it brought on by like, okay, I'm tired now, I want to, you know what I mean, I want an easier life? Or is it like, this is a sense, and how do you kind of determine, right? Like, am I, not, again, in your context and what you're doing, everything you got going on, there's no, idea of settling or anything like that. But I think one of the things I'm curious about, and as your journey continues, is how you will respond to, it may not be your plan, but folks who are residents here, folks who want to go to a better PVD Fest, folks maybe don't have the same level of hope you have in the folks that are making the housing decisions, and the folks, you know what I mean? For those folks, right, who are watching you, I'll identify as one of those, right? People who I see you and I think this is the kind of leadership I would, as a collaborator, as someone who's worked with you, like, man, if you were in a role like that, the ways in which the work I trust you to be able to do, the work that, can be brought to light. So I wonder if you have felt outside of your journey, your path, now I wouldn't call it pressure, but if you felt an external push in any way towards going against maybe your current plan, especially as it relates to like leadership and how you've kind of navigated that, if at all.
Yeah, I think, and when I have gotten that question, there was definitely cases when Millennial Rhode Island first came out, and maybe some intentionality. I want to do this. I want to be able to build this and maybe run for something significant, and take this vision, dream, and put it into action for elected office. So I've gotten that a lot. I think what's really cool about that position or other positions is term limited, and I'm only 33.
Yeah.
I'm only 33, and I think the mistake people make is they treat that they're gonna be in power for a long time when you're term limited, or you have to run for re-election. Right. And I know that there's just a time limit. For things, and we're able to pass the buck, pass the leadership, and I think we go into waves sometimes in terms of our politics. I think the previous 2 mayor elections was more of a progressive and more of a identity. I don't want to say identity politics because these were people Head Start to Harvard. They both had the same story with Travis and Jorge, but there was a different air, especially after Mayor Elorza beat Buddy. It was a crazy transition for the city. So we go from that, and we go, and we always knew that the East Side vote was extremely important, and there's definitely a pragmatic, I would still say progressive air, right, in that last election where Mayor Smiley got 40% and 60% got cut between the two other candidates. So I think we just go through ebbs and flows of the city. Going back to what we talk about in terms of collaboration, I think, and I've only been following these type of politics, not I guess 10 years.
Yeah.
So there's people that are OGs have larger sample sizes, right? I get the sense just knowing Elorza, how I knew, and hearing stories from other people. I think people got to grow into their certain leadership style,
right.
And if and this goes for anyone. This is not even anyone in particular, but I think people got to go through that leadership style. You're going through a transition. It's a huge personal life transition, I would imagine, for those folks, no matter where they're coming from, no matter what socioeconomic status they're coming from. You are the governor now, you're the mayor now, you're the whatever position have you, even the state rep or city council. There's a whole life change that goes through it. And then how do you operate with that? Because you're gonna get a lot of negativity, you're gonna get a lot of pushback. And how do you make sure you open up, whether it's city hall or state house, people to bring in good ideas? And I think Elorza was also criticized in terms of wanting to try so many things. But he brought in a lot of people into City Hall. He also got negativity, but that's what comes with being leadership or branding yourself as a leader, being a community leader. There's gonna be negativity. Someone's not gonna like what you're doing. I think the goal is, how do you serve the overwhelming majority of people? And when you're talking about mayor, how do you make people feel that the city is the greatest city to live in? And when you gotta have that in your brand, you gotta have that in your DNA, you gotta have this. And I think people sort of find that, hopefully. But if residents don't feel that, then I think you do get some sort of backlash.
I mean, and I respect the path that you're on and the way in which you're recognizing that one, there's a lot of opportunity, there's a lot of things you're engaged in now that really matter, but and you have time. I'm just gonna really push and encourage anyone who I'm just as a non-Rhode Island, or as someone who's a transplant, but very invested here, to realize that also we have now, right? We have our youth, we have our energy, and we're more able to jump into things we're afraid of now than in other times. And I think that if for no other reason, right? I agree. Like being someone who makes people excited, proud to be here, right? To not just people from here, but to draw the attention we want. I think you need someone like that. But most importantly, I think the collaborative leadership and the approach that you've taken to building what you've built, which I would love to, but yes, to just button that, I think that the leadership style that I've watched you, utilize to build what you've built and been a part of, I think that is one of the most needed things in our state, here in the city of Providence. So again, do what life compels you to do. But that's rare. Someone who's achieved what you've achieved, who still approaches things as collaborative as they have. And of those kind of collaborative things that you've done, Millennial, Rhode Island is a shining example. But I mean, Island Coquito, which we're drinking here, and I'm telling you all, this is such a necessary staple. As I told you, I'm a part-time, Latino. The Dominicans know me, que lo que, wah, wah, wah. But I've been introduced to Coquito, and I've been a regular. Every season I just get a little, I get the Coquito shakes going on if I don't get me a glass. And this is such a critical cultural staple. It means something when you give someone a bottle of Coquito. It means something when you make someone a bottle of Coquito. It means something when Coquito is present in the space. And as a Puerto Rican, where Coquito originates, what has it been like to watch something that how'd you build this, but then also what's it like to see this take off in the way that it has?
And so Victor Regino and Louis Olmo, who was on the board from Millennial, Rhode Island. That's how we all got caught up. So Victor was, originally this was called Papi's Coquito. He was doing homemade, selling it, during the holiday season, just like a lot of other Latinos do.
Got a couple bottles myself.
Yeah.
If we can say so on the record.
And he had the best coquito, and I also love the brand he was making with it too. And I remember ordering it, and he had the idea of, I wanna bring this into market.
Yeah.
And I just, this is such a gold idea. This is such a great idea. And he brought Louis on, and his background, his story is, this is abuela's recipe. He was making it to honor his family. Coquito is about family. Yeah. For folks that don't know, it's a cream liqueur product, rum-based, coconut, vanilla, cinnamon. You can find it at your local liquor store in Rhode Island, looking at islandcoquito.com or on Instagram. But I remember hearing an idea, and with Louis, and I was like, I want to be a part of this. Like, this is great. I want to help launch. I want to, like, how do I be a part of this? Just let me know. They were going through the process, and pandemic hits, and in the fall of, it was, I think, October 2020, they hit me up, and maybe I was annoying a little bit, like, I really want to be part of it, and they asked me to be a business partner, and they asked me to help do different tasks, and it has been a rewarding experience. We've went through a lot. We've gone through a lot. I mean, we had to go through a rebrand between Papi's and Island if we ever want, when we take the product outside of the state and market that elsewhere, so we had to go through that. And, friends coming together and doing this, starting a bit, I mean, we're the only Latino-owned liquor brand in the company. There's not that many Coquito brands. There's not that many Latino-owned brands across the country. Like, we're in a very small space, small category.
So the only Latino-owned liquor brand in
Rhode Island, yeah, right now.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah. And we are. It's been quite the journey. Yeah. Because the homemade version, right? We had to go do research and development, how to transfer the homemade version to something that you could be allowable in stores. So when we were working with our vendors and our companies, we tasted a lot of different versions of this product, landed on this product, thankfully. And when we launched in April 2022, so I joined in August 2020, April 2022 is when we launched. Yeah. We're doing a lot of meetings. We're not seeing anything. There's some investment, there's sweat equity going on, loans getting taken out. What is the best Coquito? How do we get to market? So, and that's not even including the work that they did previous to me getting on there. Yeah. And that's what a lot of people don't see. This has been years in the making. So we launched in April 2022. Our first store is Jordan Liquors. We sell out 24 hours. Yeah. And now we're in over 60, 70 liquor stores, restaurants, bartenders are trying crazy different things with it. We've sold thousands of bottles across the state. Yeah. And we are just getting started, but we've had a ton of challenges. It has opened my eyes to, I have so much respect for people that want to own businesses. Yeah. And I guess, Millennial, Rhode Island nonprofits, they are a business. Yeah. And I guess I did have that experience starting a brand, getting people around it, generating funds to be able to do our programs. Right. That's a nonprofit. Yeah. We're paying taxes. We're doing, sticking to regulations. We are, there's so much going on. Lawyer fees. Yeah. Lawyers are expensive for people that want to start a business, especially you get into the liquor business. Yeah. And I come off with, I just have so much respect for people that start a business, because it's so hard. We've been on the brink of, are we going to survive? Are we going to make it? Are we going to go through it? Because, I mean, it's not easy. Yeah. And there's not a ton of capital support for Black and brown businesses. No. We don't come from families where I get $1 million loan from my uncle and here, go grow the liquor business. Right. No, it's like we're scraping and we're crawling. We're scraping everything we can get to be able to put this product out there. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm just so proud. You know what I mean? Like, truly to have been someone who, got some of those early bottles and watched y'all go through the rebrand, go through the bottle change, learn about bottles, learn about, you know what I mean? I know y'all took a trip I remember
Kentucky. We had
Kentucky,
we had
right.
a bottler in Kentucky. Now we have a bottler in Indiana. That's another story
right.
of just the journey. But yeah, we were in Kentucky.
Y'all have really gone through the processes. It's been amazing to watch. It actually
Can I just say, like, Victor is a genius.
Yeah.
I think that just has to be told. He's a genius. He created this. Obviously, I'm one of the folks promoting it. One of the folks I'm very proud to have the contributions I've been able to have, but very proud of him and having the vision. Yeah. The vision, and going back to what I said, like having the courage to be able to face your fears, be able to go in and do that, and to this day, it is very, very inspiring.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I mean, again, it's one, there's parallels in your journey with things that built despite pushback, despite feedback, despite having to go different routes than the intended route. Makes you think of one of my favorite Jay songs, or if not my favorite Jay song, which is I Did It My Way, which is just a classic. And also, I do love to do this Frank Sinatra, Find Me at Boombox, doing some karaoke. It's a good go-to. But
that is a good.
And not just that song, I think, and we talk hip hop a lot. And I think Jay was probably an example for a lot of us. Obviously, your mom played a key role in kind of inspiring you in a lot of ways. I assume, but I should phrase it as a question. I do, wonder, and you also, I love at every Millennial RI event, you greet everyone, or when you speak, you say, you could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with me, and we appreciate that.
Yeah.
Another Jay bar. So Jay-Z's obviously played a big role in your, like, in our lives.
Absolutely.
Well, I guess one sub question: would you take the 500K?
Yeah. He told us to take the 500K.
You gonna listen to him?
Yeah. He said take the 500K. I've given you all the gems of my music.
But you could go to that meeting and ask for 500K though.
No,
right?
He ain't gonna get it. You've heard the stories about Jay-Z. He ain't giving you 500K.
I mean,
that's how you became a billionaire. That's how you became a billionaire.
I don't need 500K. You know what I'm saying? The relationship would be enough to get me into the room with 500K. Yeah. But I respect that. You know what I'm saying? And the less of y'all that take the dinner, the more availability that there is for me. So I really, really encourage y'all to all take 500K. Yeah. But yeah, I'm curious as to like what have been your kind of inspirations and motivations kind of as you've navigated, these pitfalls, and where have you been able to draw inspiration to keep going?
Yeah. Love hip hop music, especially when there's lyrics around overcoming something, or lyrics where you're just talking your thing, right? You're putting your ego out there. Because imposter syndrome is real, and I've dealt with that. Like, am I who I say I am? And hip hop helps with that sometimes, in terms of, giving you anthems to feel confident about, I am who I say I am. I remember when the Black album came out, and, those first couple songs, or even Encore, where he's telling his story, where he came from, and now he's here. He's at the top of the game, and he's telling everyone, I'm leaving because I'm doing other things, right? I forget the name. Oh, the Grammy Family freestyle Jay-Z had, where he's spitting about, he's going to the corporate side, right? He was telling us through this art, through these chances I'm taking, strategic chances I'm taking, not only, I gotta decide who my circle is, right? He had to break up with Dame Dash, and he had to separate his business with that, and he was saying, I'm trying other things. Like, I'm not going to be a rapper all the time. He was CEO of Def Jam at one point, before he created his own company, his own brand. Even before that, he had his own clothes, right? He had his own record label. He was doing a lot of things that, if you just go beyond the music, you pull inspiration from. And I appreciate artists, creators that are able to, Rihanna's doing that now, right? Kanye was doing that before whatever happened. And, it's inspiring when you see, especially people of color, go into this space. And I think if Jay-Z doesn't do that, you don't have a whole list of not only artists, but I think athletes wanting to enter that space. How do I become a billionaire? How do I own companies, own real estate? You know, where do I need to get to? Even in the 444 album, the story of O.J. Simpson, you know, he's talking about credit or going to the strip club. What's more important, right? So so hip hop has been a huge inspiration for me.
I mean, I love that. Obviously, I resonate deeply with that, especially Jay, especially that Grammy Family freestyle. I think that that's one of his. I mean, I know I did My Way is my favorite, but that is the best lesson I think Jay has taught in a song. And so hip hop has played a key role. I know you're a big wrestling fan, which, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm surprised because the internet and Twitter have made clear this everybody knows anything. But as someone who watched wrestling, you know, in Thursday Night SmackDown and Monday Night Raw, and then I think for me it was when The Rock left, I was out. But yeah, why'd you stay? Like, what kept you still as a wrestling fan?
Well, shout out to my niece, Tiana Escobar, who on TikTok is slowly or quickly becoming a sizable influencer on TikTok around wrestling. We grew up around wrestling. My brother, wrestling fan, I was a big Stone Cold Steve Austin fan. His storyline was going against the system. Right, going against Vince McMahon. And people make fun of it all the time. What they do is crazy. What they do is crazy, physically demanding. When I tell people it's live theater, there's storylines going on, and they're performing in front of you. You're not gonna get another show like it. Elsewhere, you're not seeing this on Broadway. You're not seeing this in PPAC. These are skilled professionals that are performing you a story and what they're going through. Wins, losses obviously don't matter. I mean, people get invested in the story. It's more about the performance, the act that they're putting on. And as I get older, I really appreciate that. I don't watch wrestling. I don't watch all of it. There's so much content now with wrestling compared to you only had maybe a once a week show, and now there's like 2, 3, 4. There's almost wrestling every night. So I'm not at that category, but it's always been a fun thing.
Yeah, it's honestly, when you hear you talk about it, I don't know, it kind of reminds me a little bit of politics.
There's a lot of politics in wrestling in the background.
Less politicians these days willing to put as much on the line. But, you know, I think at the end of the day, the theatric nature of it and, you know, the entertainment factor, the question of, I mean, I don't want to, you know, because I've also felt that I've got inspiration from you to engage politically. I think there have been times in my journey where I was, you know, questioning, is this valuable? And I think part of it was seeing the way in which you've stayed, you know, engaged, you've stayed, you know, kind of tapped in, you've, you know, put me on the folks that I should be, you know, just aware of and kind of supportive. So I appreciate the way that you've, you know, kind of encouraged me in that way. I do want to transition a bit to this last piece of the interview, where, you know, we ask you a set of questions that is almost quick time with slime style, with Nori's podcast. But before we do that, I just wanted to at least like get a sense of like what is next for you, and you know, you've built such valuable things, and you've put yourself in a position where you can, you know, keep with the things that you've got going on and continue a incredibly valuable and substantive career. Is there a horizon? Is there a goal? Is there something that still scares you, that you're, you know, aspiring to still, you know, kind of?
So there's 4 things that I'm focused on, and I've thought a lot about it past year, 2 years. One is education, lifelong learning, and that could just be, I'm not talking about going back to school. I'm probably not going back to school, but how do I continuously learn? AI is in the forefront. How do I learn new programs? I'm thinking about, should I take some classes to be graphic design, you know, Canva? Excel. Am I good at Excel today as I was when I like 20,
Yeah.
20 years, couple years? So things like that. Like
Change.
how do I learn? Just how do I keep learning? How do I keep growing? Second, financial stability, along with this business, along with my career, along with the investments that I have. How do I become a person where I'm strong financially, so I can provide for myself, but I can also provide for the people that I care about, people that I love. Three is continuously networking out there. I always want to be out there. I want to see who the next young generation is. I want to keep learning from the people that have done it before me, but also continuously building my tribe. And that has been more in the forefront, I think, the past 2 years for me personally than anything else. Making sure that the people around me are also investing in themselves, but there's genuine love and care for each other. And whereas you can have a lot of friends, I think having the people that are really supporting you and close to you, I'm valuing that more as I get older. And one of the things I tell high schoolers now is to never be afraid to do a friend breakup or to leave certain circles after, because friendships usually gets by proximity or I've known this person for X amount of years, but we all change, life change happens, and I think I'm very conscious about being people who have more of a positive, optimistic spirit, but we're also in an aspect where we can support each other. And the fourth aspect is, how am I taking care of my physical and mental health? And especially on the mental health aspect, you know me, I'm more of a positive person. Anything's possible. Yeah. And 2020 hit, and I'm telling you, and maybe just getting older, it's a struggle to keep that going. Yeah. I think people see individuals who are positive, happy, they have a vision, they want to do things. It could be a struggle sometimes, especially what's going on in the world right now. And I want to make sure my mind is always right, that I can keep thinking about big things. Yeah. So as long as I'm focused on those four aspects, I think I'll find whatever journey, whatever position, whatever run for something at some point, whatever that is, as long as they are feeding those four critical pillars in my life, I'm confident wherever that is, it'll be a good place.
I love that. And I love centering like all of whatever you're gonna go on to do on, it depends on where you're at mentally, it depends on where you're at, like just checking in with like what I have capacity to do, what will bring me joy. I think it's an important message to get out, and for folks who are doing this grind, who watch and see, damn, this guy's been grinding his whole career, like hearing that piece, I think is something that I want to see more folks who are, figuring it out, share, because that is such a critical piece of like the sustaining. And there are going to be gaps in one's career that don't end up a part of the story. Yeah. But like, you know what I mean? You have to think, I was down bad. I was, figuring things out in that period, and wasn't maybe my best self or whatever. And I was able to get back to it. So yes, I wanted to thank you for sure for us doing this conversation.
Thank you.
And thank you for, supporting me and just being willing to show up for me throughout my journey. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, man.
For sure. So, shout out to the Drink Champs podcast, Nori, for the Quick Time with Slime segment that he does, where you don't have to drink, you know what I mean, like by command. But the way the show works is
I've been drinking throughout this podcast.
Right. You have two choices, and you're just gonna choose one. I'm not gonna, specify any piece about it. Just pick one. And some of these are going to be Rhode Island based, so if you're not from Rhode Island, sorry, or do your research. Oysters or calamari?
Oysters. Okay. My mom loves oysters.
Yeah.
Anytime we go out somewhere, she'll order, I'm not even joking, one time we ordered maybe 40, 50 oysters.
40, is that there's an internet thing going on?
I know. I was just thinking
That's her? That's your mom?
She'll order all the oysters in the world, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. All right, so you've grown into that.
Yeah,
taking that on.
Oysters over calamari, yeah.
Love that.
Confidently.
Drake or Jay-Z?
Yeah, Jay-Z, but that's an interesting question, right? It's because in athlete for athletes, right? You say like LeBron or Jordan, right? Some people say that, but you never got to see them play against each other.
Yeah.
Like Drake, Jay-Z, they're still active. Like Jay-Z's active, but Drake is giving us so many hits. Yeah, I gotta say Jay-Z because a lot of his music was a big inspiration and big lift for when I was growing up. But Drake got great vibes too.
Great vibes. You saw them both. And you walked to a spot. They were both there. You're beelining to Jay.
Oh, I want to take the picture with Jay first.
Okay,
I want to
absolutely.
I want to go hang out with Jay. Yeah.
I support that. Well, you guess you kind of answered. Well, The Rock, Steve Austin.
Today would be The Rock. He got Terramana.
Yeah.
He's A-list actor.
Well, yes.
I appreciate his positive energy. In terms of who was the better wrestler, who had the better period, and I know like revisionist history because The Rock is so big now.
Yeah.
Right? And Stone Cold, he got his thing, but he ain't The Rock.
Yeah.
Stone Cold was a complete movement.
Yeah.
The Austin 316 era was a complete movement in wrestling at that time. So if we're talking about just wrestling and impact on wrestling, it's Stone Cold over The Rock. If you're talking like who would I much rather have lunch
Whose bank
with?
account?
Whose bank account I want? It's The Rock. It's The Rock.
Yeah, I just watched a minute. I didn't watch the whole thing, but it was a minute of Stone Cold like stunning The Rock. Just stunning. It's just a minute of different times.
They had great matches. They had great matches together.
Daddy Yankee or Bad Bunny?
That's funny because I don't know Spanish, so the music.
Oh yeah.
So Bad Bunny.
That is Puerto Rican. No,
Bad Bunny. Bad Bunny.
Bad Bunny. Okay.
He's got this new song. I think it's called Monaco. Someone's gonna make fun of me for that because I don't even know if I'm.
From the new album.
Off the new album.
Yeah.
And I saw him performing in Saturday Night Live, and made me want to read the lyrics. Made me want to like understand. What was going on. It's on my playlist today. The only Spanish song.
Oh wow.
Spanish language song on my playlist.
Okay.
Today.
Hey, this is the only Spanish song.
Yeah, I'm a hip hop fan. I'm a lyrics guy. I gotta understand. So yeah, right now, Bad Bunny.
Bad Bunny. Okay, respect. La Gran Parada or Pitos?
La Gran.
La Gran. Okay. Yeah. That's again Rhode Island Broad Street thing. Millennials or Gen Z?
I gotta say millennials.
You gotta be careful. No, they're online.
Yeah. I'm definitely saying millennials. I think what's happening with Gen Z is similar to what they were tagging our generation with. There's a whole lot of they're gonna be this, they're gonna do this, they're gonna do that. I want Gen Z to live how we were trying to live, which was like our best life and trying to navigate this really tough, this tough system. They have it. I mean, we're both kind of in the same boat, but housing prices are crazy, inflation's crazy. They're our generation was tasked with, we want to be for meaningful things, we want to fight for change. Right. Gen Z is even doubling down on that further. So I'm excited for them to keep doing that, especially in the workforce, because I think that's going to create a better culture where work from home and how we're elevating diversity, how companies are giving back. Yeah. So yeah, I'm excited for Gen Z to keep doubling down.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree for millennials now, but I think that Gen Z having gone through the pandemic and everything that's come up after it, and this being at the time where they're coming of age, is going to impact them so interestingly. Like I loved our childhood, but we had 50 Cent, and it was good times. Yeah. In the early 2000s, and so the fact that they're having to face the realities of the world, I think are going to put them in a particular place where, activism, getting on the ground and making change, I think feels like a much more like normal expectation of everyone. Than any other generation.
Let me just add one quick thing to that. I believe our generation, we're kind of like J. Cole middle child, where he's rapping about bridging certain generations. I think we are, you and I, our generation, like it is so important that we make sure we bring up whoever is coming up next. And it's great to see when I see some young people that are doing amazing things. And I just think about How do I connect you to a job opportunity? How do I take whatever I've learned, all the mess ups I've had, how do I bring that knowledge to you so you can grow? That's the space that I'm always going to be at. And I think for millennials right now, especially with Gen Z, for millennial leaders, how do we do that? We can't be a generation where I need to protect mine. I'm going to be isolated, right? So because that's what a lot of people of our generation felt when we would come up. I think that's what Millennial Rhode Island is so popular, is people were saying, like, where do I go to? How do I build connection, build a network, build a life in Rhode Island? So I want to make sure in everything we're doing with Millennial Rhode Island, everything I'm doing personally, it's always, how do I help uplift whoever's coming up next?
Absolutely. Hey, I think that's the best note we could possibly end on. Thank you again, brother. This has been so vital and so necessary, and I'm so grateful, brother.
Appreciate you.
All right, brother.